Hello, I'm George Gonzalez. I'm a game developer. I am obsessed with making games. I love making games. I enjoy them. I have fun. In the last 4 or 5 years, I worked on several projects. First one was Sail VR, single player, and then Monkey Do, and now Cactus Jam. That's the one that I'm currently getting paid for to make. Just to get you an idea of the teams, because oftentimes you're like, oh, there's a big team, and you worked on that. That's easy when you work on a team. Monkey Do was two developers. Um, from Sail VR single player, I came in to help a project that was just not getting finished. I helped in. They hired some another dev, and we finished it within I think 6 7 months. Uh, Monkey Do early access took 7 months, two devs. With Cactus Jam, it was just one developer at all times. Same thing, one developer, 6 7 months to early access. And now we're just working on the beta and the launch of the full game. And while I'm doing that, now I'm working on my own game on the side called Magic Hunters. I've learned a lot about avoiding scope creep, saving time, because when you're a small team or when you're indie dev, you have limited amount of time. And so scope creep can really put a dent into your game. And so I want to help you save time. I also love making games so much that I'm doing my own on the side. And I'm doing this for multiple reasons, but one of the reasons why it's so important to this video is that I want to relate to you and be able to show that you can do this on the side on top of your 9 to 5 while having a family. I have two girls, a wife, a house, mortgage. I take them to school. I work from home. Whenever I have time at night or Saturdays, I work on the game on the side. And so I know what it is to do hard things. And I want to share those things with you. And I'm documenting this so that I can help developers know how to use their time wisely. We're going to talk about avoiding scope creep, okay? So the first thing what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about why scope creep, and then 4 steps to help you avoid scope creep. Scope creep is mainly distractions. What happens is when you're distracted or you do things out of order or don't measure what your decisions are and you just do things from gut feelings, you end up taking longer than you thought, spending time on things that are not as valuable, and your game suffers because of it for different reasons. And so we want to avoid those things. And today we're gonna talk about how to trim that fat off and just really make your game better and your time that you spend on it. So that way you're not spending 10 years trying to finish your game. What I've seen on YouTube and other channels is more and more of the same thing of how I failed, how I failed, how I failed. And so I want to show you what to do to get games finished, not the other way around. Some people will say, well, you don't need to plan that much to get things done because there's people that have done it, they don't plan or they have a different idea and they just get it out and they make money. Well, that's true. It's not true for everybody. And so if you don't plan, you plan to fail. Now, there's some people that get lucky, but if you want to actually improve, you want to plan. I don't like to gamble with my money. I don't like to gamble with my career choices. I don't like to gamble with the things that are important to me. And so, if you value your money, your life savings, and you don't want to gamble away, then plan. Or else, but if you don't want to do it, don't listen to me and keep doing this until you're 80. That's fine. What I'm trying to help is developers finish their games. And so, we're going to do that. So, we're going to do the 4 things that you can do to avoid scope creep. Before you sit down on your table and work on something, you have to ask yourself, what am I working on today? Whether you have Monday, Trello, whatever task, Milanote, what is it you're working? You might have even a list of 10 things you're going to do. You should not have a list of 10 things. You should have a backlog of multiple things you're going to do, but you're going to be working on one thing. And until that thing is done, you're not going to do anything else. Don't worry about it. This will save you a lot of time and headache because oftentimes your brain is filled with all these other things you're going to do, and that clutters. And I want to show you how that helped me with the spell system. So I have a spell system that I worked for my game, and there's some stuff that I've documented on YouTube. But let me show you. So I have some commented out. So this spell script was initially a draw tool. It started out me figuring out if this was a viable solution. So the first task for prototyping for me was, can I draw a shape and have the game actually spawn what I wanted it to spawn? Okay, so it was hard coded. And then I went through these tutorials online, looked it up how to do it, downloaded whatever I needed, I installed it, and it was code from GitHub that had this drawing tool, the gesture. And so I can now draw shapes. I figured that one task, even though I know my game is a wizard game and I wanted to make spells and enemies and AI and it has to be networked, as you can tell, nothing's networked yet on this at least. So to avoid scope creep, make sure that I focus on one task at a time. Then I went on and added the spells. Okay, so now I need to draw something and I would add. So this was not always there, some of this stuff. So I try to figure out, okay, if I'm gonna constantly draw spells, how do I know when one ends and one starts? And so I made the decision to say we're just gonna draw one line or one gesture. So I have to do spells that you can draw in one go. So I can't do an X because that would take 2 lines, and so that would complicate things. I could look it up and figure out how to do X or how to do a T, and I can still get away with it if I just draw in the same line, like backtrace. But that's something that again is for the sake of scope. I can't dive into crazy figures and say, oh well, if you're drawing 1 and 2, you can draw 3 lines. So to keep it simple, we said one gesture, and you can still do a lot of crazy shapes with just one go at it. So that's one thing I did. Cut scope by making sure it's like I'm not going to diverge. I don't need to. I have enough with just those gestures. Now, in here, before I did the check spell function, I had a activate spell, and that activated gave me the. And even before this one, I had this one where it's like it would grab a list of the spells based on the array. I would spawn the spell. Okay, and that was like what I did first, and then I went from this to activating the spell. And what did activating the spell do? And I think I might still have it. Maybe I don't. No, I deleted it because it worked. Because it didn't need it anymore. But the idea with the activate spell is that it would check for the spell, and instead of just spawning it, it would then call this spell class and call the setup. So I created a setup. I created this abstract class that would set up the spell. I didn't even have any of these other things. These came later. So as I build the enemies and the other systems, I started adding on to it, but always with one task in mind. Okay. And you'll see if you want to join my Discord for the game, I'll leave the link below. I also have on my Discord my game design process of this because I wanted to document how I'm going about making this game. So if I go into my Discord, you will see in the game design portion, I'm from the beginning, laying out everything how I design things and what I was thinking about. I didn't start it super early. This Discord was built after I was already had some games. But in here, I go over some game designs, ideas that I'm having. I'm basically brainstorming in here so that I can stay on track and I'm updating the community on what I'm doing. Okay, so that way I'm held accountable as to what I'm doing. But this was exactly what helped me, like I said, avoid scope creep. Because then I was able to do one thing at a time, and now I check things in here. So I don't need this anymore. It's all done in here. It checks the spells. Now I actually check the spell that I need, and I actually grab what I need, and I modify. I have a mana system, but again, this wasn't there before. Again, all this was commented out, and I would little by little add and remove. So I would modify and add functionality to this, one task at a time, every time, and that helped me create what I'm doing now. And even now, the spell system is not everything that I need yet. I have this network version that I have to do yet. And that I'm going to do that next week. So why is this so important? It's because it happens all the time. With you have a function, you start going down a rabbit hole and you want to add more. Focus on what you're trying to accomplish. One task at a time, especially if you're an indie dev. You are only one person. And so you need to evaluate everything that you're doing and evaluate the biggest, most important things that you need to tackle first. Now, the next one is the second one is plan scope. This is where you dig your own grave or make your own party because you choose what you want to do. You are in control of your game. You are the boss, the CEO of your company. And so if you build a crappy game, it's your choice. You chose to do whatever decisions you made. You're your own boss. So who you hire, what you do, how to lead a team, or how do you lead yourself? If you're a solo dev, hey, what are you going to do? And are you having fun doing this? So let's take Monkey Wizards. Monkey Wizards was what this game was called. Monkey Wizards was what this game was called before. And I chose to change it and call it Magic Hunters. And so I pivot a little bit because the main goal, the first one was to create a guerrilla attack clone and see how fast I could make a game. But I didn't want to just do that because once I did the spells, I realized that there was bigger potential and I wanted to plan and change how long I wanted to work on this game. So I said, okay, I'm not going to do this simple one-off game. I really want to dive in and see how much I can do with this within a year. So, and I know that at some point I want to shift to doing this full time. I'm slowly adding more and more hours. And now I'm tracking how many hours I'm doing a week to make sure that I'm adding more and more to this game because I really want to push it and finish it. And I'm going to. But the main thing is I wanted the art style to be different, have more control over the game design, and go in a direction that's more organized. And so now you are Magic Hunter that's trying to save the world, not the world, but the place, the environment you are in, and you are discovering and finding new magic spells. And as you go, you're leveling up, destroying enemies, saving the people of the towns, or doing different quests. And you can do that on your own or with other people that are around you or friends. So you can play this in many ways, but it's basically you're in this world, you know how to do magic, and you're gonna learn how to do more magic, more cool stuff, and you're gonna level up, and you're gonna get stronger, and you're gonna defeat cool enemies. That's it. And so that's what I'm doing. Is this something I'm gonna enjoy? Yes, I love it. I'll play it. I want to play it. That's why I made it. And sometimes you're like, well, am I selling it to myself? No, I'm trying to figure out my audience and making sure that they enjoy this game as much as I would. And so I want to make sure that I get enough feedback and that this is a marketable game. Even though I would like this game, I also know that it needs to be marketed to certain people. But I'm having fun making it and learning these things. The other reason I want to talk about scope in relationship to the one task, you have two things, is that when you look for tutorials, oftentimes you'll see like these Udemy courses and all these courses, you have step-by-step on how to do things. And you follow those step by step. Oftentimes the teacher already knows what the game's gonna look like. And so they know the variables they're gonna do. And you miss a lot of the thinking that happens when making a game. And so that's why I want to record. And that's why I'm doing the live streams on Saturdays. I'm trying to share as much as I can because there's a lot that happens in between the code. And if I just wait till the end of making this game and going back and say, okay, this is how I built it, it's not the same because I won't remember all these things. And when you are in the middle of making the game and making mechanics, that is where the learning happens. That's where the experience, the level up happens for you as a developer, not because someone told you how to do something. It's when you have a specific task or mechanic you want to create or a system and you put pieces together and you figure it out. That is where the magic happens. And and that's very hard to do in a tutorial because they already know the variables and they start writing out all the variables and it's very like, okay, like, so oftentimes, yes, it is easier to follow someone that's telling you what to do the right way. But what I try to focus in is not for you to follow me in what I'm doing right now, but learning the principles of what I'm doing. Like I show with the spells. It's not about like how I coded it, but like how I saved time and avoided scope creep. Okay, how I focused on one spell at a time. And I'm doing the weekly live stream so you can see what I'm doing live instead of this like monotonous step by step when I already know what I'm gonna do. And so like in game development, you'll almost half the time you won't know what you're doing. That's the whole point why they're paying you to figure it out. So let's move on to the next. Checkpoints. This is huge. Okay, let's say you want to spend a year making a game. So how are you gonna get through these phases? How long is each one gonna take until you get to launch? So 5 is launch. So if in a year I want to launch, how much time I want to spend after I launch to fix the game? How much am I willing to spend developing updates for it? So why is this so important? Because when you are, or how do you do it? Because you know it's important. Everyone knows these phases. You have them all the time. You have like also beta, alpha. You have names for all of them. I like to use these because prototype and vertical slice are like the key. You prototype until you find the game. You do a vertical slice to show off your game. And then after that, it's just a matter of finishing it. There's all these technicalities as to like funding and early access, pre-launch, marketing, and all that, which can still be done while you're prototyping and doing vertical slice. But those two are like where people get stuck. People prototype forever and never finish their games because they're trying to finish it, but they never did the vertical slice. And so they're just constantly working on a prototype that keeps changing. And so these checkpoints are a good way to say, what am I working on right now? When you're in prototype phase, you probably don't even touch audio Don't touch, like, don't try to do feedback unless it's part of the mechanic. For example, let's say you're working on a game that you need to feel your way through. So haptic feedbacks is a good way to do that. And so if it's part of the game mechanic, you do need to add it. But most of the time, like if audio is not a main mechanic of how you play, you don't need it. Do not worry about it. Even if it takes 10 seconds, like focus on one task. Your task is getting the gameplay out. So you can play it, you can have people test it. And what happens is oftentimes it's hard to find good testers. So that's why I have my community and I have this YouTube channel. If you need help with your game, if you want people, developers, players, or whatever it is that you need to find to help you test for a prototype, comment below. Promote your game. I'm okay with you promoting your game here. I'm okay with you promoting the game on my school community and game devs. Like that's the whole point, is to promote. Like oftentimes Discord and other studios or other places, communities don't want people to promote their stuff. I'm the opposite. If you're in the school community, if you are on my Discord, if you are on YouTube, post links as long as they're legit linked to your game or to video trailers of your game. Promote that. I'm okay. If you need beta testers, join the community. I'm there to help you. There's no excuse for you to fail. Like I'm here for you. I'm putting my time in the community to help anyone that's willing to receive help. So there's no reason to fail other than just putting in the work. So if you like these videos, if you want help, it's up to you. Participate, like, subscribe, like, comment. Let me know. What is it that you want to hear about? What is it that you want to learn more about? Where are you stuck? Once you have your checkpoints, all it is improving that, okay? You have your one task, you think about the bigger picture, you figure out expectations, right? Because you're like, okay, what do I need to do? What am I expected to finish? And then you measure and evaluate. And I want to share with you a key piece of information that I think is valuable. Even though it's simple and you might laugh at it, if you do this, I promise you'll finish every game you make, okay? Because no one does it. And this is where the biggest scope creep happens. I call it the +1 rule. Focus on +1 means just that. Not +2, not +3s. Learn one new skill, and that's it. So what I mean by this, if you are a new developer, you don't know anything. What's a +1? Well, you might want to figure out what engine to work on, but you might, instead of learning for yourself, you might ask people, it's like, what's the best engine? That's like one of the number one questions asked all the time. What's the best engine? Or what's the best editor? It's up to you. My advice is, if you don't know anything, and let's say I want to make a car game, a mobile car game, and I have an Android device. First of all, if I have an Android device, I'm not going to make Apple games. If I have a Mac and I have an iPhone, then obviously I'm not going to make games for Google Play. Whatever device you're using, you have in hand, just use that. Unless you really want to do for Android and you don't have Android, then you have to buy an Android phone. Or maybe you have a relative that does it. But you need access to one all the time. And so, if I have an Android phone, I want to do mobile, I have a PC, okay, I'm going to build to mobile. So I'm going to figure out, I'm going to download a Unity template for a mobile game. And let's say I want to do a car game. So I'm going to look for a template for a car game for mobile. And then I'm going to figure out, the main thing I'm going to do is figure out how to put that game, build it, and put it on my phone. And you're going to learn a lot. But what is the main +1 is that you're learning how to publish. Well, not publish, but how to deploy to your device. The second thing you can learn after that, once you're done with that, you can say, well, now I want to learn how to publish it. So how do I go about putting it out there so I can share an alpha channel to other people? You got to make a Google Play console, a developer account. You probably have to create your own business. You have to learn that. That's a lot already, but it's a +1, right? And it's a +1, but those +1 takes even a bit, because you're going to have to do a lot of learning. You're going to learn how to make a business, all these other things that you didn't know. Because what happens with scope creep is that oftentimes the +1 rule is almost not real. The +1 rule is there to keep you from going crazy. Because when you say +1, it's almost impossible to just learn one thing. You learn so much more. And so, but you think you're only learning one thing. So that's the good thing, is that you do +1. In this scenario, I'm learning how to deploy to my device, and I learned probably 100 things. But you'll be able to get it done within days if you're really good, a day and a few hours. Maybe it takes a little bit longer. But dealing through that with the stamina that you have, it won't be overwhelming. You'll get it done. You do it in Unity, then you do it maybe in Unreal, and then you figure out which one you want. Well, Unity seems to be easier to build for mobile. Unreal, like the game doesn't even work. Or something like that. I don't know. And then what about if you already know how to deploy, how to publish? What do you do next? Well, the same template. Is that the template for the genre that I want? Maybe I gotta find another template. And then you're like, well, I can't find it. Okay, what's the closest thing that you can find about that? What is the mechanic you're trying to learn? And whether you find a template or not, that's why I have the community. I'm able to help you. I'm pretty sure we can find something. I have, for example, a Marvel Snap, if a card game type playlist where I help people. What if you want to learn a card game? How to do for a card game? Most of the time, you're going to face someone else. You need to do a multiplayer. So how do you do it? I show you how. And so again, just +1, learn one new thing, one new skill. It will already. That's why I said it's impossible to avoid scope creep because you're always learning so much. But you can definitely reduce it by focusing on one thing that you want to learn and making a game about that. Maybe it's a 1-month game, a 3-month game. But as you learn these skills and you +1 every time you do this, the measure, and evaluate, and realize the expectations of what you can do. If you measure that, you'll be able to understand how much you can do, how much you can learn, especially if you're doing this on the side. You're working, you're tired when you get home, you only can do 2 hours, and sometimes that's not even, sometimes you don't even feel like doing any. So you need to figure out, is this something that I really want to do? And then you have to put in the work and figure out when and how much you want to do. I'm here to help alleviate some of that stress because I know it can be hard. I want you to focus on one task, plan how long it'll take, figure out the checkpoints, measure and evaluate. This will help you avoid scope creep. You'll be able to learn and make games faster. Now, if you don't have questions, concerns, that's what I'm here for. I'm serious. Like, I will help you. I have a community. I have a YouTube channel. Comment, talk. I'm planning on sharing everything that I've learned, everything that I know. I don't know how else I can say it, but you can do it. You can finish any game if you put in the time and the effort. If you want to do it, that's why I'm here, to prove that anyone can make a game as long as they have the passion for it.